Fantastic. Thank you so much for obviously taking my call, being part of this Zoom meeting, Andres. Obviously it means a lot, and look at you, how sharp and everything. You got the suit jacket, even though we're in quarantine. I had to put my shirt on because I was on another meeting now too myself, and you know what? I know, Andres, how you rock, man. So you're always sharp. And guys, for you guys out there, obviously seeing this for the first time, and Andres, he's a friend of mine, and he's actually a bankruptcy attorney. He'll talk a little bit about himself just now, but we decided to go ahead and create and make this audio for the purposes of because people right now are going through a situation with the COVID-19. People are gonna, have lost their jobs, have lost their resources, their source of income. People are gonna have questions, and I think it's up to us that are in the industry. Obviously, me being in the credit repair industry, I want to bring knowledgeable professionals not only to the channel or to our audience, but to the people who are seeking this information, to have the proper knowledge, to make the right decisions for them and their families, and in the future for things to basically better themselves. So let's go ahead and really dive into this, Andres. I know that you're obviously a busy man or whatnot, and I actually have a few questions, and I wanted to, I guess if we could go ahead and get started. Talk a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and obviously I have some questions that clients ask me all the times about bankruptcy, and obviously who's better to knowledgeable to answer this than you. So go ahead, man, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justo. And I'd be happy to help. So, just a bit about myself. My name is Andres Robles Cruz. Um, I've had a passion for law, I've had a passion for helping people in many different areas for many years. Throughout law school, I helped defend uh, the state of Florida, I helped defend companies. Um, I worked with personal injury cases. I worked with a number of different areas of law. But when it came time to actually start my own firm, the reason and the impetus and the heart behind the firm was to help people get past these everyday issues, help people get past debt, help people get to a new life. And when I looked through the different areas of law, family law, you help people get through their family strives. In criminal law, you help them get out of some pretty dire circumstances. But for some reason, I felt so gravitated to bankruptcy because at the heart of everything is money. At the heart of everything, when people are indebted, when people feel that pressure, it can cause huge strife on individuals, on families, on companies who are just trying to live, who are just trying to make it out of this world with something to pass on to their children. And unfortunately, as I've experienced firsthand and as I've seen with other of my clients, there are large companies and conglomerates, large entire industries built on debt, specifically in this country. It's built against and stacked against these individuals and even against small businesses so that they're trapped. Essentially, you can't get out of debt without putting on more debt. And many people don't see that bankruptcy is actually a viable solution, particularly the most vulnerable people, the people who bankruptcy is actually intended to protect, the good faith debtor who can't afford all the debt that's accumulated, who's going through a hard time. Particularly, what I've seen a lot is also medical debt. These people are put under huge pressure not to file bankruptcy. I mean, even from what I've seen, and the good thing for this video, that the reason why I wanted to do this too is there's a lot of misinformation and fear mongering out there, not just from people that you know and families that might create a stigma against an individual. Oh, I can't believe you're filing for bankruptcy. from yourself, feeling like I'm a failure if I file for bankruptcy, or from online, where there are actually large creditor companies that are putting misinformation out there on different websites masquerading as financial help. So I'm glad to dispel some of that. I'm glad to bring whatever knowledge that I can. And at the end of the day, just as the reason for why I started this firm, I want to help people get out of debt, help people get out of the toughest time, whether it's filing for bankruptcy or working with someone as knowledgeable as Justo, or planning their financial lives. I want the people to see how important it is to be free from the consumer debt mindset that we have here in America. So, and that's why bankruptcy, it's not only important, it's not only a good solution for many people, it's a right. It's an actual right people have. Whether it's right for you or not, that's something that depends circumstance by circumstance. But any questions you have, any way I can help, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to share what I know.
I appreciate that, Andres. And just touching base on that, because again, it's something that every time that a customer comes to me, and my objective or my goal, which I think it's our responsibilities as professionals, to be able to guide them in the right direction. I cannot neglect, or I cannot not tell somebody not to do something. My responsibility as a credit repair expert or someone who's helping someone financially is to basically educate them as much as possible so that they're able to make those educated decisions. And I think you hit it right on the money. And this is one of the first things that I always think of. Who should consider bankruptcy? Or in this particular case, what type of a person going through a financial situation, or in this case, what type of financial situation should somebody be going through in order for them to consider bankruptcy? So what would you say to that, or who's a good candidate for bankruptcy?
So it depends, and there are different chapters of bankruptcy that might be best for a person in a certain circumstance. For consumers, the different chapters that are used are Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. And I know there's tons of information out there, and there's a lot of people talking about 7s and 13s. But at the end of the day, the main distinction is how many assets you have, what do you want to do with your debt, either completely discharge it if you're eligible under 7 and you're under a certain income threshold, or if you want to reorganize your debt under Chapter 13 for a more favorable monthly payment. You could still get a discharge under 13, but the goal is a little different. Now, who's probably likely to get good for bankruptcy? It would be people who, like for a 7, who have a lot of unsecured debt, right? So a lot of those medical debts, a lot of credit card debt, different consumer loans that they've had to take out, and they don't tend to have much assets. Typically, if you're eligible for a 7, you may not even own your own home. You have a rental contract, you have an apartment, but even if you own a home, particularly here in Florida, you may be eligible under a 7, where we have the homestead exemption. So certain assets are actually exempt. So under the homestead exemption, as long as it's a homestead property, no matter how much you have in that property, it won't count under your assets for a Chapter 7 to be able to qualify for that and to be able to qualify for that discharge. And again, just to explain what a discharge is, the discharge is not necessarily that the debt goes away. It means it's now unenforceable, it's not on your record. You had a payment that you're required to do, but because of the equitable nature of bankruptcy, you no longer have to pay that. That's what a discharge means once it's granted. And that's really the draw for a lot of people. So if you have a lot of those unsecured debts, even if you have secured debts, they may still be eligible for restructuring. Uh, it all depends on the circumstance, but typically it's lots of debt, not really much ability to pay, not really going through a circumstance where you lost your ability to pay. Generally, those types of people should consider bankruptcy. And even when bankruptcy may be an option, there could be ways outside of bankruptcy, either through credit repair or through other debt negotiations that can be done to fix things, to help without having to file for bankruptcy.